We will be understanding about like what is United Nations and how far the nations have been helpful in solving the conflict. Just like how did they, the League of Nations went for. So we will be about how far we have assistance or humanitarian assistance that it was successful with, and what was its position during the Cold War and after the Cold War, and what is its position now, and what are the necessary reforms that are needed for its proper functioning. So it has evolved like in conferences, and it met over a couple of years before becoming the United Nations organizations. Like it did not do it in a hurry, just like that of uh, what can we say, League of and declarations. So it was done through London Declaration in 1941. It had happened, and the nations that have participated in this Ireland and South Africa. And next comes the Atlantic Charter, which was signed by Roosevelt and Churchill. This had happened in August. And next happens in the next year, January, which is 1942. This is called as Washington Declaration. So Washington Declaration is the conference where the United Nations term was coined, and it was officially like till then it was not under the name of United Nations, but it was officially used on documents, and it was signed by 26 nations. And next comes Moscow Declaration, which had happened in 43 October. And here in this Moscow Declaration, it is a conference of foreign ministers to United States, Soviet Union, Britain. They have discussed like why this organization is necessary, especially with the failure of League of Nations of World War II, and why is it necessary, especially with the end of World. So, like all next to Iran, November, and was well done, and the countries to join in. So initially, like if you go back here in 1942, it was initial call by 26 nations. Then in 1943, the smaller nations were also given call to join for this international organizations. Then Dumbarton Oaks Conference is very important, which I held in 1944. So what does this conference say? It's where here it's the blueprint, like how the functioning of United States, what are the principal organs, and how it should properly function, how the power should be divided. All these things are given as a blueprint in this Dumbarton Oaks conference. This conference in 1945 February. Here, the structure and what shall be the functions, the principal function of United Nations and the members was prepared. And in San Francisco Conference 1945, it was headed by these five nations, and around like 280 delegates have participated and signed the charter. So, what does this charter? This charter comes into picture in October 1945, 24th October 1945, where it was we are preparing for competitive exam, and what all had happened in such conferences is also very important because the like when was put forward and who derived, and what was the role played by various countries that have helped Remember London Declaration, Atlantic Charter, Washington Declaration. Oh, and then comes the picture, like the whole notion of United Nations organization, objectives of uh, picture means the especially with the multipolar world that have been given rise, and the countries been forming the bandwagoning, or countries been dividing on the notion of capitalism and this communism. The world as there exists anarchy, as there exists anarchy, like no central authority in the world, there has to be some authority that had to be looked forward if there was a brink of war. So that was the main notion for the League of Nations, but it was failed because mainly of its proposals that it was pushed through Paris Peace Conference. So especially, so otherwise this was that could have been successful to an extent, but also the powers were not United Nations organization. All the picture fitting, and uh, organization or they need to be some authority which can help control or between the war, uh, then develop the relationship so that they would not go for the war, because the war is very costly affair, and especially with so this organization is much needed, and these international cooperation is showing problems. So let's suppose there's any issue. If there was an issue with United Nations or central authority, or if there was any issue, central authority would be there was an issue between the states, the union or the center would look into the issues. But if there was any issue between, if there was a resource happen, and this United Nations tried to fill in that space, or it tried to fill in that gap. So So I hope like I'm audible, I'm audible properly. So you can comment in the box like if I'm audible or not. So that's how the international cooperation is very much important, and this United Nations thinking to solve such issue. Then to promote and encourage and respect for human rights and for fundamental freedoms for all. See, we have earlier understood that during the war or immediately after the war, there has been countries where it was controlled by the mostly the colonial regime, and the decolonization process has just started. So, keeping in purview of this, the United Nations agenda was also to encourage such decolonization and respect the human rights or basically any rights of the individuals who are living in the different countries. So, this proposes to form the fundamental freedoms for all. Then to remove all the threats to peace, ensuring better living conditions for the people of the world. So also like how does it ensure like so how does it ensure that the better living conditions of the world will be prevailed by acting as a mediator, by trying to stop war like conditions. Okay, by all such things it will do uh, or it will rectify the issue of war or anything as such. So next comes the principles of United Nations. So the principles of United Nations would be it acknowledges the sovereign equality of all members. So what happens in this United Nations? It acknowledges the sovereignty of all the members. Let's suppose you are signing this charter to become a member of the United Nations. Then the sovereignty or the institution power to rule themselves will not be taken away. Okay, so the sovereignty, the authority, the institutional structure, everything of that nation stays intact. Okay, just so becoming a member to it, you will not lose of your sovereignty. This is just a union. Sorry, this is just a league. So in league, you just maintain your sovereignty and everything. You just come together for a similar cause. This is not a confederation where you give up your sovereignty, where you give up your constitution. It is not like that. It is just people coming together for a single, simpler cause and trying to fight for it. So, and also it is based on ideals of peace, equality, truth, and fraternity. So what does it mean by this? It means that the countries, by becoming the members to United Nations organizations, even though if it is a small country, even though its economy is very negligible on an international scale, this country would be treated equally with respect to the larger democracies such as United States of America. So all the countries will have equal power. All the countries will have similar authority. So all this peace, ideals of peace, truth, and fraternity will be maintained. And member nations must settle international disputes by peaceful means in such manner that international peace, security, and justice are not endangered. So by becoming a member to it, what happens is I become a member to the United Nations organization as a country. Then, if there's a, let's suppose there's been a dispute between me and my neighboring country, and that would be taken on an international space, then that matter would be settled very peacefully. Like it would try to adjust the brink of war like situations, like try to maintain peace, security, and abundance, just so that the international security would not be disturbed and the justice would be served equally for the both the nations. Then member nations should refrain from threat or use of force against territorial integrity. So it is advised like member states should refrain from use of threat. It is advised that if you automatically become a member to this, you should try to refrain yourself from participating in violent in war-like situations. Like rather than going for war, you should look into or trying to establish peace or try to settle matters through peace. So like that, you can understand the things of UNO. Then next comes the membership. Like this is also very important and critical. I think I've seen many MCQ questions come from this the membership issue. So first, it was signed in 1942 January 1, and it have 193 members, and the headquarters, like the office of United Nations, is established in New York, and these are the official languages of United Nations. The first one would be Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, Spanish. So these are all the official languages of United Nations. So these are also very important MCQ like the Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. The General Assembly can dismiss membership of on suggestions of Security Council. See, you have become a member to this United Nations. Okay. So after becoming a member to this United Nations, you need not say that this membership would be permanent. Okay. This membership is subject to validity based on the behavior of the member country. So let's suppose if the member country has been becoming rogue and participating in violent like situations, then that member country membership can be dismissed by United Nations General Assembly upon the suggestions of the Security Council. So this is how the things are put in place or should be maintained in place. Then the organs of United Nations. So there are six such organs, but one of it was dismissed after a certain while. So now there exist only five organs of United Nations. The first one is General Assembly. Then next one is Security Council. Third one is Economic and Social Council. Fourth one is Trusteeship Council. Fifth one is ICJ, which is International Court of Justice. And sixth one is Secretariat. Now let us understand what are these organs and what are its functions and what powers do they hold in proper functioning of United Nations. So first one is General Assembly of United Nations. So it's in the name itself, it's a General Assembly. So what does it do? It makes policies. So what type of policies it does it make, like any humanitarian assistance policies or any economic policies, anything as such which could be looked into that. And there exists 192 members, and it is a forum for discussion by the charter. And also, let's suppose if you look at the Indian Parliament. Parliament also shall meet for every not more than 3 months, right? So the winter session or the monsoon session, every year it should compulsorily meet twice in a year. So like that, the General Assembly also it meets every year from September to December for the yearly sessions. And this General Assembly consists of all the members, like whoever member countries have signed for the for becoming a member of this United Nations, they all becomes the members of this General Assembly. And the state must have not have more than five representatives. See, although each member country is described as on a percentage of one vote, but this could be represented by five members, like four to five members, four to five representatives who will be representing themselves in United Nations from the country they belong to. And now let us understand the functions of this General Assembly. So the first one is deliberative functions. Like any discussions related to maintaining peace, security must be done by it, and its decisions are advisory in nature. So then, with this line itself, we should have understood that if this is just a policy making organ. This is not a policy implementing organ. If even if made if makes a policy, this has to be approved by some other authority for it to be considered as a policy or an act. Because you can also go by the evaluation method like General Assembly will have membership of all the countries. So it is very difficult to get acceptance of all the countries, right? So that's why the decisions are also not binding on the United Nations. They are just advisory in nature. So they'll give their opinions, they'll give their expert opinions. So it is not compulsory for these expert opinions to be taken into consideration of. Now, next one is maintain international peace and security. So for it could be called as an it may call for international peace and security and the uh, like attention of international peace and security. So what does it mean? So if there's any conflict going on in any part of the world, and United Nations members or the United Nations as per the charter, it thinks that if this was not addressed or controlled, this could lead to any serious warlike situations which would directly affect the humanitarian assistance or sorry humanitarian crisis, which would lead to humanitarian crisis. Then if it thinks that it is deemed to be followed, then it will try to get the attention of Security Council for the international peace and security. So the next one is codification of international law. So 948 it prepares conventions declaration with regard to states' behavior. So the law that under which this United Nations comes up with such solution was codified under international law in 1948, and it also has taken into consideration the behavior of the states, like how are they reacting to that. The next comes a supervisor. So it receives and considers annual report and special reports. So all just so that it is a policy making body, it will receive the annual reports or any such reports that they have made up with, and these reports must be studied by this General Assembly. Then next comes the budget, like makes, approves, appropriates the budget. So it will make a budget that was needed for tackling any of the humanitarian assistance program or any crisis that has erupted in the world or any country that needed its help. Then it needs money, right? So the budget is also made by it. It's approved by it and appropriately used by it. Then elections. So the elections of the judges of ICJ, Secretary General, non-permanent members to the Security Council and Socio-Economic Council. So to what all offices that elections are conducted is given here. So the first one is elections are conducted to the judges of International Court of Justice. Then it will be conducted to the main head of the office itself, Secretary General, and then the non-permanent members will also be considered through Social Council and Economic and Social Council. So all these things will be considered by the United Nations and now General Assembly. And now let's talk about United Nations Security Council. So, unlike the United Nations Assembly, all the 193 members states are the members to the uh, assembly. Here, it is very limited membership, and it consists of five permanent members and 10 non-permanent members. So, who are these five permanent members? So, first three you would have understood by now, the most powerful and the largest economies. There, the fight has been going on between these two economies. So it is Russia, it is United Nations, it is UK, Russia, China, and France. So these are all five permanent members. They have special vote, and that will be discussing. And they elected by General Assembly for a timeline of 2 years. So for 2 years they work, and after 2 years they retire. So the General Assembly's term would be elected for every 2 years. So General Assembly elects the Security Council head. Sorry, General Assembly elects the 10 non-permanent members to the House for every 2 years. Like it keeps rotating for every 2 years. So first this 2 years, they'll have some member countries. Then next, after the second year, they will have another member countries. So mostly the member countries are elected from African region, Asian region, East European region, Latin America, Caribbean, and Western Europe. So the General Assembly should make sure that these 10 members, 10 non-permanent members would be elected from places which are mentioned here. And now how are these places are elected? They are elected on the basis of geographical structure. So, based on the geographical existence and based on their structure, the 10 non-permanent members are rotated for every 2 years, and they are elected on the basis of that thing. So the next one is only one representative in General Assembly. It will be like each country will have around five representatives, but here only one representative will be elected. And the let's suppose the election to the membership is done on basis of rotation, and let's suppose one person from or let's suppose one country got their seat in this non-permanent membership, then for the next year they cannot be immediately re-elected. So the immediate re-election option is not there. And the functions of Security Council is to maintain peace and security, and it also submits special reports to General Assembly because General Assembly is a rule making body or a policy making body. So for its approval, it will make the special reports or send special reports to General Assembly. Then it also might call states for a peaceful settlement among nations. So it's like it although the people wanted to go to war, they wanted etc, they wanted to be addressed, the the reports must be sent to General Assembly if they are made by the Security Council. And also it might also call states for the peaceful settlement, and they can also the General Secretary the Secretary Security Council will have authority to call states for a peaceful settlement. Like they are the authority where they can uh, decrease this war-like situations and bring up for uh, what can we say, the settlement. And the Security Council take political, economic, military action against the state. So if there is any state violating the orders as such or attacking the other enemy, other nation, then the Security Council will have authority and power to 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 impose actions on that rogue state. And also these elects judges to see ICJ with the help of General Assembly, and it also recommends Secretary General of United Nations. And also it will come up with the treaties or policies where the disarmament and arm control are put intact, and they have power to amend the charter. So the Security Council powers are very important. They are not just vague as such, the General Assembly. They're very important, and it will take time for you to understand like what are all the functions of what are all the functions of the Security Council. So the measures, it also calls for the measures of disarmament and arms control, and it have power to amend the charter also. That's how the Security Council is very important and I mean also very powerful in comparison with the General Assembly. So now let us understand, and also let's suppose if a new member want to be joined or adopted into the Security Council, then General Assembly, then it needs the approval of the Security Council to join as a member. And uh, you all know the veto power of Big Five. So the Big Five states will have a veto power, and this veto power means the Security Council. There are five permanent members and 10 non-permanent members, right? So these five permanent members will have special powers, where if they can, their bill has to be passed. If they object, if any of the member object to that bill to be passed, then the bill will be rejected outrightly. So even if one member vetoes it. So that is how powerful these P5 members are. Now, Secretariat and Secretary General. So it is a principal administrative organ, like it is an administrative organ, like the admin block, where it will help in running such a big or such a huge organization. And it consists of international civil servants, and also it is headed by Secretary General. So this Secretary General time period or the term is for 5 years, and it is headed by Chief Administrative Officer. As per Article 97, the Secretariat shall comprise of Secretary General. So this is how the important the things are, and the highest office of UN. So Secretariat and the Secretary General is the highest office of UN, and the spokesman represents all the people's interests. Okay, so if they are speaking, this spokesperson is speaking, he's not just representing his own nation or his own will, but they would rather be representing all the nations, all the countries' interests, and it heads the Secretary General heads all the meetings and accountable to the day-to-day functions of the United Nations. So, first of all, the secretariat is the general body. So it will look into the functions. Now the secretariat is headed by Secretary General. Now the Secretary General (SG) is responsible uh, to address interests of all the people and head all the meeting, and also to look into the day-to-day meetings or day-to-day functions of the United Nations. And it also submits annual reports and prepares budget to the General Assembly. So, like you can understand that after making this things, after making the bills or the policies, they need the approval of the General Assembly. Okay, because it is a body of all, right? So General Assembly need to be addressed. And then Economic and Social Council. So in the Economic and Social Council, 54 members are elected by the General Assembly. Okay, so their term is 3 years, and this is like Rajya Sabha, where it's a permanent house, but it's like not semi-permanent, like member stays, but the membership keeps rotating. So if term is 3 years, after every 3 years, the one third of the house expire every each year, and the other countries will be given membership. Like no continuous membership will be given to the same country. Let's suppose if they are given membership this year, then they will be given membership second year. So not immediately. So this continuous membership is cancelled, because in such a way that only few countries will be getting more choices or more options to represent. Okay. So that's why they put up this clause, and permanent members are legally elected. And this council, Economic and Social Council, it meets twice a year in New York, the general body, the headquarters of United Nations. And let us understand the functions of this Economic and Social Council. So it makes reports with respect to the economic, socio cultural, educational, and health, uh, with prospects to that. Its main agenda is to promote human rights, like to ensure that the natural rights of the human beings of the humanity is restored, and they would not be violated in any warlike situations. And also, it also calls for international conferences to be held. And this Economic and Social Council, it will get anything reports like, let's suppose the Security Council will make some law, and they will send for the General Assembly for the policy addressing the approval. Then they've been making on the topics of economic or the cultural or health, education, all such things. So when it was approved, so now it has to be handled by the Economic and Social Council. So it will get its reports from the various different UN agencies to look into if there has been any issues, okay, to be addressed, if there are any issues that went vague in. So now next one is trusteeship council. So this trusteeship council is nothing but it will look after the territories, and it will supervise those territories, and it will administer those territories. So this supervision, looking after or administration will be varied depending on the membership that the house the countries will be given in. So the first one would be the permanent members and the member states, where they administer territories, and the members elected by the General Assembly for the 3 years. So in 1950, it had got 15 members, but after 1994, with the issue of Republic of Palau, it became non-functional. That's what in the beginning of the lecture I've said that initially there are six principal organs, but later it was decreased to only five with removal or with dormant functioning of trusteeship council. So its basic functions were to promote socio-economic interest and to promote the self-government and self-governance and to promote human rights among the nation countries. Now, another important organ is ICJ. This is International Court of Justice. Its headquartered is in Hague, which is in Netherlands, and it is a principal judicial organ. Let's suppose there has been any disputes that has between the member countries, then this dispute shall be settled by none of the member countries judiciary, but rather an international neutral organization, judicial organization, which is International Court of Justice. So its membership is 9 years. Whose membership you can say? So the membership of the judges, like the people who give verdict, their membership is for 9 years, and they are eligible for the re-election also. So, but every fifth year, if, sorry, every third year, the five of such judges will retire. So, and also they have concurrent vote of General Assembly in electing these judges. And uh, just like the Economic and Social Council or the Secretary General or General Assembly, the membership to this International Court of Justice or the judges who are getting appointed to this International Court of Justice, their appointment is done on the basis of qualification. Okay, not on the basis of nationality. Like if the judge has become from India this year, then the next after 9 years, the judge would be not elected from India. So nothing like that. If there is it is based on merit. Okay, merit-based appointment. So the judges would be appointed on such a merit-based appointment. Okay, so then their qualification will be taken into consideration. Then the cases are decided based on a majority vote. And if there's a tie or anything, then the casting vote will be done by the president, like the head judge. And what are its functions? So it will look into the legal disputes among the sovereign nations. Because if the sovereign nations already have their own judicial structure at home, but how far it is beneficial that each country would settle matters by being neutral. So they would favor their own nation, right? So for such disputes, the International Court of Justice is very useful and important. So it will try tackling the international issues among the nation states. Then it gives advices to General Assembly and Security Council. They take up all the cases referred. Yeah, they cannot deny that I will not look into this case. But whatever the case is been referred to them, they shall be considering to taking such cases. And also it recommends necessary actions that must be taken or the legal advices that must be needed for the Security Council to make this institution work properly. And also it has got an option of not compulsory jurisdiction. So even if the jurisdiction is given by it, it is not compulsory that it has to be uh, followed. So the now next one would be role of United Nations. So there are three methods which has been proposed by United Nations to maintain peace and security. First one would be peaceful settlement. Second one is collective security, and third one through preventive diplomacy and peacemaking. So this peaceful settlement, which is one of the method to maintain peace in international world order, this has been mentioned under Article 33 to 38 in Chapter 4 of United Nations Charter. This is very important for MCQ and also for you to write a descriptive answer which would provide you with weightage. The negotiations, the government sit across tables and discuss and negotiate disputes, only parties to dispute. And next one would be good office, like state not party to dispute, but can negotiate. This third party only offer channel. Now next come mediation. It tries to reconcile claims of the parties of the disputes. Now, like either direct negotiations or being a third party or a mediation role would be played by some other country, would be addressing the peaceful settlement of the war-like situation. And the mediation, inquiry and conciliation, like this inquiry and conciliation will be conducted by a neutral team of investigators. So, because they should put their nationality aside and look into the issues where it is necessary to give an or give an answer or stop anything as such like war-like situations. So it has to be very neutral if you are functioning as a body belonging to the United Nations. Then it looks into the arbitration, which are semi-judicial powers of this body, and the arbitration or judicial settlements between the states are based on the international law by given by ICJ, International Court of Justice, or European Court of Human Rights, International American Court of Human Rights. So this is how it would be settled. And next one, this is peaceful settlement. So the next one is collective security. This is very important and crucial thing. So the collective security is nothing but it is an military action taken by collectively by the member states against a rogue state to maintain the peace and order in international society. So the Article 1 of the UN Charter calls for the collective means of prevention of aggression or removal of threats to the states. So this is how it is done and it should be considered. Then Article 38 to 51, the collective security chapters or the charters are drafted in Article 38 to 51. Chapter 7 of the charter, which has the articles related to the collective security. Then Security Council. Security Council determines a threat to peace, empowered to take decisions and maintain peace, and diplomatic relations between the parties. And it also proposes measures to adopt and restore the peace. So the Security Council, under the charter or uh, the articles that have been mentioned in chapter 7, they will look into and determine the issues which are a threat to that international peace and security, and they are kind of empowered to take any decisions that which will restore the diplomatic ties between the states or which will kind of reduce the war-like situations. So it also calls for, like example, this was seen in the case of Palestine, 1948, and Korean War, which held from 1950 to 53. So it called for a ceasefire. Like ceasefire means if there's a war has erupted and this will involve and this will settle the matters. So it tries to draw the ceasefire border, etc., in order to stop this war. And the military operation against states with the help of other members of the states of UN. So if like it's a collective, it's in the title itself, collectively they come together, they will fight against any country, any member state that has been disrupting the peace. The next one is preventive diplomacy. So preventive diplomacy is nothing but to stop or to prevent the war and act as a buffer and maintain this ceasefire conditions. So the preventive diplomacy is nothing but like before the war could happen, this will be controlled and it will be checked, like the aggression or the collective enforcement. And the neutral impartial advisor is, it has two types of diplomacy tactics. The first one is armed forces and observers. So who are these armed forces? These armed forces, they will come up with this peacekeeping operations. So these peacekeeping operations were previously held in some of the places like Suez Canal issue, 956 until 67, by UNICEF in Egypt, Congo, and Belgium. So this was under UN Congo operation. and UN force in Cyprus. These are all like all the previous examples that are very important. Like if you look back through the all the years and understand that what has the United Nations have done, then you can get your examples through their peacekeeping operations in such a way. Then the observer groups. So observer groups are like if there's any war, like war happening between two nations. So this will ensure that this war would not be further spread and the destruction would be controlled. So this could be seen during 1949 under name UN True Supervision Organization 1949, which is there till date, and on ceasefire violation of Israel and the neighbors. Then next UN Military Observation Group. So UN Military Observer Group in India and Pakistan, where 1949 it happened to patrolling the ceasefire in Kashmir. The next one is United Nations India-Pakistan Observation Mission, which had happened especially during after the 1965 war between India and Pakistan, and it had been observing this thing with the border patrol mission between India and Pakistan. Then UNTSO, which is between Suez Canal in 1967 war, and from 1967 to 87, it's between Israel, Arab, Palestine neighbor, and India, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, civil war, Afghanistan, and Namibia. So all these various previous issues have been tackled, and also the United Nations peacekeeping mission were given Nobel Peace Prize because they were successful to an extent, because there are drawbacks to any organization. They are successful to an extent in controlling the war-like situations. And but yeah, it was not succeeded in Bosnia, Herzegovina, Somalia, and Rwanda. So and also this was not seen in water dispute, Cambodia, Thailand, 1958, 59, 62, 64. Also, it was helpful. And during the Kofi Annan, who is the seventh General Secretary, the peacekeeping missions were sent to Angola, Afghanistan, East Timor, Cyprus, Pakistan, and West Sahara. Now, the some of the achievements of United Nations is it banned the nuclear weapons, like at least put a proposal to ban nuclear weapons, and the WHO was formed in 1948, and the UN Commissioner for Refugees was formed in 1950 to tackle the refugee problem, especially after the destruction of Second World War and the decolonizations which started with the destruction of the Second World War. And in 2002, International Criminal Court was established, and 12 peacekeeping missions were held, and 22 UN 75 declaration, like UN 75 years of celebrations was also happened. So all these things are kind of achievements of United Nations. Now let us understand the defects. So basically, like it's like although it's super structured and every country more or less was being a member, and all the issues that had to be tackled, and with the power structure power play it does, but it rather really on paper is a toothless organizations. Because how? Because for in order for it to function, it needs funds, right? So where does it get its funds from? It will get it from funds from the member countries. So indirectly, you're depending on a member country for in order to do these peacekeeping missions and control the warlike situations. Then how far do you expect such an organization to be neutral? Because the member countries will say that we are paying you, so you should rather act as per our wishes. Right. So this there it lost its credibility, and the veto powers of members make them override any of the discussions. So as we have read in the previous slides, that if any proposal has been vetoed by these big powers, then even if one member objects any proposal, then the veto power would come into picture and that draft would be cancelled. So now if imagine if the P5 nations, one of the P5 nations itself is participating in this uh, war-like situations or disrupting international peace, and the resolution has to be passed by this veto, by this Security Council, then do you expect the country to vote against itself in the United Nations? No, right. So it will veto it, and that peacekeeping mission would go in vain, and nothing would be addressed or nothing would be proceeded. So, and also ICJ, International Court of Justice, it lacks proper machinery to look into the disputes. So, like every organization needs certain proper institutional machinery and budget to understand to do its work properly, right? Like example, you being a student, you have to work on yourself, you have to study, then you need proper material and proper guidance, right? Without that, the things would not function properly. Then lack of global south representation. The global south was almost negligible, like it was almost ignored. And it was not until you can see this thing in 2005, the sexual abuse allegation by the UN peacekeepers in Republic of Congo, Cambodia, and Haiti, like nothing was done. Like no proper measures were taken in order punishing such atrocities that were committed against the members. And the crisis in South Sudan, which had happened in 2011, also it was unsuccessful in protecting the civilians of rape and torture. So, like there has been various unsuccessful missions of United Nations and the defects in structure and functioning of UN. So now let us understand the India and UN. Like what is the position of India on UN organs, on its functioning and on its structure. So India is also one of the founding members of United Nations. Yes, because it was a co-sponsor of landmark UN 1960 declaration which actually granted independence to various colonial countries. So India has been the first member country chair to it, and the first country to also to contribute the trust fund on sexual exploitation. And and interestingly, this is achievable by India that in 2007, it deployed against only women, it deployed only women contingent in peacekeeping missions in Liberia. And India chaired the UNSC, States Security Council 8 times. And it started the South-South Cooperation Initiative in UN 2017, and also it formed G4. It formed a group called G4. So this G4 consists of Brazil, Germany, India, and Japan. So what does this G4 means is this G4 nations will look into, sorry, this G4 nations was formed specially calling for social reforms, the Security Council reforms, because they want the P5 membership to be expanded to various other countries. Especially the representation is very low, so these countries need to be represented. So that's why Brazil, Germany, India, and Japan we've been fighting to expand this membership. But it was and to increase this thing to 25 to 26 members, and there should be a flexibility given on veto that if one member country vetoes it, it need not necessarily be cancelled out. So this is how you can understand the G5 countries, sorry, G4, and it was countered by another group which is called Uniting for Consensus, where where the other countries, member countries, were opposing for this formation of G4 nations, where they were asking for the um, what do we say, the increase in membership. So, and there lies many political challenges, and veto power members are reluctant to improve or expand their membership. So now let us understand the impact of global conflicts, like disputes between global powers would not want to allow other members, especially with the Ukraine war, Syria war. And next one is regional powers are significant in extending their exposure in UN reforms and its relevance in 21st century. It during the COVID pandemic crisis, it was tackled with the help of WHO, and it sent many humanitarian assistance to war hit areas. So this is how the restructuring has to be done, the proposal and the defects that lies in the structure and functioning and the working of United Nations. And we have read the what do we call it? The principal organs and the membership, how it has got. So you can understand the question would be like write about any of the organ in detail. So you have to know the membership, the details, the functioning of principal organs of United Nations. The next question would be like write the reforms and the restructuring that is needed in United Nations. So this is how you can understand the things uh, clearly. So I think you're all clear with this, clear with today's lecture. So uh, you are all clear with today's lecture. So I'll look into with we'll talk about the other coming upcoming topics in the another lecture. So I hope it is fine for today's class. So see you all tomorrow with another United Nation, sorry, another international lecture that you should understand about. So see you again.